What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Rawstocks. This is Rustic, and today we're going to be taking a look at Tesla's chart. We're going to look at where price came from, where price ended today, and where price is likely to head tomorrow. But before we get into it, don't forget to check the description below. There's a link to Traders Helping Traders Discord, where you can find me hanging out during market hours. We're doing live callouts. There's technical analysis. There's educational videos, and a whole lot more. Also a link to the merch shop where we have stock market and money themed merchandise, hoodies, t-shirts, and tank tops. It'd be a huge support if you guys check that out. And that's all in the links in the description below. Also, don't forget to smash a like and subscribe and share with all your friends if the content that I bring you has value to you or you think other people could benefit from it. It really helps me out, especially doing the like and the subscribe helps the algorithm get my content to more viewers. So we'll go ahead and jump into the chart now. We have the daily chart of Tesla up, right? And we're using Smart Money Concepts by Lux Algo Indicator, as well as I have the moving averages. These are volume-weighted moving averages, the 20-period VWAP. We got the 50-period, and below in the red is the 200-period. Those are the three that I have, as well as an RSI indicator popped up. We have our previous levels that we have talked about in past videos, and we'll talk about the ones that hit today. As you might see, there are some things missing from the chart, and we'll discuss that more in detail as we go along in today's video. So if we're just looking at the daily chart and the price action today, right, we had our daily range low contain, which is the daily baseline of our bull channel that we've been following basically for the last 2 weeks, right? So we have that. We have our daily high contain, right, which is the resistance of the bull channel that we're currently in. We also have this downtrend bearish resistance that we established much earlier back in July. And then the other peak was in September. And so we have that resistance line. Okay, we talked about that in the video yesterday. Go ahead and blow it up so you can see it nicely on the daily chart. Right, so we have this daily fair value gap, which has been respected. We traded down. We had a higher low. Today we had another higher low. We didn't even come back down to test the trend line of support in the bull channel. We did not get down to the daily range low contain. Okay, we did have our daily bull bear pivot line, which we crossed over. Right, we also traded up to and through our median of our bullish channel. We also traded nearly up to that resistance, and we found selling pressure coming in at 268.91. We'll call it 269. Right? Did not quite get up to that 270s level. Right? The resistance line was up at 270. We had our daily range high contain at 270.74. We did not get there. We found selling pressure that was, probably built up orders in this wick of liquidity, or just, again, coming close and anticipating this bearish resistance trend line. Some important things to note, again, as we drop down further into the chart, but you can see price ended and it traded through and it ended right at the daily buy-side liquidity that was found in the top of this wick. So we've fully taken all the liquidity that's built up here. We traded higher, we came back down, we closed right at the liquidity level of the top of this wick. So we're going to go ahead and remove that from our chart, okay, because that's a hit. We're going to go ahead and add a new buy-side liquidity, okay, and we'll do that using horizontal ray, and we'll put that here. And tomorrow that's going to represent the previous day high and buy-side liquidity. Okay, so we know liquidity rests in this entire wick. That's a nice rejection wick, ultimately bringing us down like basically 50% of this entire channel, right? Because if we were looking here and we're looking at the top here and we ended somewhere near the median, that was a huge rejection wick. Do we trade back up into that wick? We'll see tomorrow, right? We do know that orders and liquidity rests in this wick, so we could see something like a draw on liquidity tomorrow, maybe even into the next day, depending on how high price goes. But we might see a draw on liquidity and then further trade to the downside. We might just see it fully taken out. We've been very bullish to this channel, and this is a very aggressive trend line. It's definitely pushing us up. As you can see on the daily channel, we're above VWAP, or above 20-period moving average on the daily. Okay, we came down and tested back on Friday that 50 moving average, and currently trading above all moving averages. That is usually a bullish indicator. I would say something to note with the moving averages is we do have the 20 and the VWAP turning down. Okay, so was this just a move of manipulation? Okay, and that large rejection wick says possibly, because we did see our kind of consolidation, our reset, Friday consolidation, manipulation. Are we going to get distribution to the downside? That's entirely possible. We're looking at the power of three, accumulation, manipulation, distribution. And so highs and lows, we're looking to be set on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. So we do have a high of the week so far on a Tuesday, right? Do we push up, set a new high on Wednesday? Possibly that would put us into this trend line of resistance again. We might want to test that, see if it holds. If it holds, we might be looking at a bigger sell-off. We would take the liquidity again that's built up in the wick, right? And so we'll just have to see what price wants to do tomorrow. We could also say if we catch this as a manipulation candle with that huge rejection wick, do we see distribution to the downside? Right, and then maybe a reaccumulation Wednesday, Thursday, and then further distribution into Thursday, right? That could take us down further into this bullish fair value gap, right? And it could take out some of the sell side liquidity. It would adjust our channel. Our channel would no longer be so aggressive, but that does happen when you start to see consolidation like we did over here, right? So if we came back down into this fair value gap, could we see some further consolidation? We would then just adjust our trend line until we clearly say that there is no longer a bullish trend. But it would be fairly bearish to break the current aggressive trend line. But as long as we keep this daily fair value gap open, we're remaining bullish in the longer term perspective or the medium term perspective until this daily fair value gap gets taken out, which is a candle close below, and this is a daily candle close below 250. Okay, we're still bullish regardless of this channel breaking. We become less bullish when the channel breaks, but until this fair value gap is closed, we are not full bear mode. If we do close this daily fair value gap with a close below 250, we are looking to target weekly sell side liquidity, daily sell side liquidity, right? And then potentially down into the 230s and the 220s in this daily fair value gap that rests below. Okay, but we're not there yet, so we're not going to really count that chicken before it hatches. Looking at tomorrow's daily control, the daily range contain, we are looking for a low to hold of 257.44, give or take, and we are looking for a high to contain, and we keep moving it up, 273.12. Okay, give or take. We'll call it 273, right around where 4-hour equal highs rest. Right, so we just keep moving that target up, and we do keep seeing that we are having some volatility in this market. Same day, basically testing support, testing resistance, right? Come back down, test support, okay, trade over the median, test support, come back up, right? We didn't run a test of support because we ran it in the previous day. Now we basically ran up to pretty much test resistance where we're running into additional resistance of this bearish resistance trend line. Okay, so we have our liquidity levels marked out, our previous day high buy side liquidity, right? Our bull bear pivot is also going to adjust based on tomorrow's candle. That bull bear pivot is going to be price running over 265, and we could say if we cross that, we are going to be heading up to test or hold above the median, right? A further test of that would be buy side liquidity previous day high, further test of that, daily range high contain, right? And the equal high, if we got up there, we would just take that equal high, I'm pretty sure. Not expecting a, massive move up to 280, but you never know with Tesla. Tesla is its own kind of beast, right? If we did start to see those very bullish, very large candles, we could see these moving averages start to turn up, right? As we also look for the 200 period to play catch up. But the fact that it's way down here could tell me that we might want to come down and see, again, running a test eventually down here to test the 200 period and then see further upside from there. We did not hit it down here, which, I think there was a lot of expectation that that's where we're falling. Market ripped back up. Right now we're kind of stuck in between a high and a low. Right, we're in an in-between. We're pushing up on Fibonacci levels of this entire move here. We're probably somewhere in the golden pocket. Let's go ahead and measure that off. So if we're looking at fib levels, we have traded through optimal trade entry at the 70.5, but it was just with a wick. We currently closed between the 618 and the 70.5. Okay, so if we were looking to go short on a longer term position, maybe some kind of swing put, we would be saying that if we're bearish, which right now there is more indication that we're bullish, but if we were considering a bearish swing position, we would be saying in this golden pocket, in this retracement, right? And we have mentioned before that we have a head and shoulders type of look, right? And we have this break of structure down here. Okay, so that is a bearish change of character, traded back up to a fib level. And then could we see more distribution to the downside? Entirely possible. And we'd be looking to target, fair value gap, 200 period moving average. And so that'd be the bear case scenario if things started to really fall apart. So we'll be watching that. The fib levels are important. Those retracement levels into the golden pocket are important levels to be watching. If we start clearing above that, again, we have our high targets. So we might be pushing to a much higher high. We'll go ahead and take that off, drop down into the 4-hour chart, see what's cooking there. We do have a fairly bullish look on the RSI. We just continue to kind of bounce on the moving average control line, right, as we get walked up higher and higher. We have talked about the possibility that we just continue to kind of moderately trade up into earnings, and at that point, could we expect a sell-off? Possibly. So we see a little bit different look when we're looking at the 4-hour time frame, right? We still have all of our same targets, but what we see is that first 4 hours of trading here, where we got that large rejection wick, and then during the second, we just kind of consolidated. So that doesn't tell us a whole lot. We didn't really draw on this liquidity during the second hour. So could we push up here tomorrow and draw on some of that liquidity that was in this rejection wick? Yeah, totally possible, right? Could we also just kind of roll over, come back down? We do have, again, in the 4-hour, we are above all moving averages. We have a 200 period that is more or less caught up with the moving averages. So that's a really good sign. We might be looking to just come down and test this 50 period, which would put us in line with the trend of support with the bullish channel in the 258, up to 260 range, right? That wouldn't be unusual to see a test on this 4-hour 50 period moving average, while we continue to see the 20 period come back up, possibly get across, right, running into earnings. And then we could see price sell off, come back down to the 200 period, again, retest this 4-hour fair value gap, see if it wants to hold before ultimately making a move higher or lower, right? And we'd be watching these moving averages, VWAP, and seeing if we did run over and we got a cross, bullish cross on the 20 to the 50, right? Do we then turn back over and we get a bearish cross under the 200, right? Or do we just continue to let the moving averages run us up, right? Tesla, can go catastrophic and to the moon in the snap of a finger. And so, when you see something like trading above the moving averages, bam, just rips, right? So if we come up here, we get the 20 period and it just starts to run us up really fast. It's totally possible. Then price eventually, the moving average catches up to price and you start to see some kind of rollover. But if we saw a move like that and we saw this 20 period cross up and start to run us up, right, that would take us, up above this peak probably. We could remain in this channel, or we could see a blow off and then return to, right, and then possibly some kind of correction and then even higher. So that's going to be something that we're watching closely, is this 4-hour moving average setup, because right now it's fairly bullish, but we do not have the 20 above the 50, and that's something we do want to see for a fully bullish moving average setup, is the moving average is in line 20, 50, 200, and then just being run up by the 20. Corrections often come back to the 50 period when that setup is in place. So we'll see it come up, test the 50, come up, test the 50, right, as the 200 continues to catch up at that point again. Let's drop down into the 1-hour, right, similar kind of look. Here we do have the, we still don't have the bullish setup, but we do have things looking good as far as the 20 period goes. We do see that, again, early buying. We see that sell-off that was the rejection wick, and then we see some consolidation into the end of the day. We are sitting inside a 1-hour fair value gap that is bullish, right? And that closes at 261. So do we see price, either gap up, trade sideways, or even come down, test this 1 hour fair value gap and leave it open, and then continue up to retest? Because we didn't test the resistance support line here, we might see price just break out and run a test tomorrow. Totally possible. At that point, we would see the 50 period that is trying to come up. We have a 20 period or 200 period that you can't see very well here, but we are looking like the 50 is going to cross. Right? And if that cross happens, we do have the confirmation of the bullish setup for the moving averages in that case, where price will be above all moving averages on the 1 hour time period. Okay, the RSI is telling us that we have been overbought here, right? We have a little bit of divergence here. So let's go ahead and mark that out so you guys can see what like minor divergence looks like. Right? That's not a very aggressive divergence, but that does show that we had an overbought reading here near a top, okay, and then another overbought reading here today at today's top. So we have a lower high, higher high, right? Higher high, lower high, and so that is an early sign of some divergence that's setting up. And so could we see price come back down to the 50 on the RSI, or even go back to an oversold reading? We could take this 1 hour fair value gap out. Again, come back down and test this 1 hour fair value gap here. That would potentially, depending on how quickly that happened, be a breakdown of that bull channel support. And so we'll be watching that very closely as well. If we drop down into the 15-minute chart, we can see a little bit better today's price action. Okay, as we blow it up, right? We've adjusted some of our levels to represent tomorrow's levels, but currently we have a bearish look on the short-term 15-minute chart. Okay, we have price trading under the 20 period as we saw that massive run up, sell off, consolidation, right? We ran a test on the 20 period. We fell down below. We have the 20 period curled over, heading down. We are trading below VWAP. We have this 15-minute fair value gap that has a low of 260, right? So there's a lot of interest down at that 260 level. We also know that max pain, I think, is around 255. We also know that gamma readings want market makers are going to want price, below or in the 250 to 270 range, which is kind of our range for the rest of the week ish. And so when you're looking at options activities, sometimes those things can give you an indication where we might fall as far as the range goes for the week. Okay, but looking at the moving averages, we're below the 20. We're coming back down. We're going to run a test of the 50. It appears we're going to trade into this fair value gap. We do have equal lows here that are going to want to get taken. Regardless of whether the move ends up being up or down, we will trade below these equal lows as a target area. So do we come back down, cross under the 50, run a test on the 200? This is a nice sign that our 200 is starting to respect our trend line, because that shows that any tests below or lower than current price, right, is very likely to test this 200. And you can see this breakdown, and we called this live in the Discord, that we were watching the 15-minute candle break down below the bull channel support, and then looking for the following candle to give us confirmation that traded back up into our bull channel support line. Right? And if you turn on the moving averages, which I didn't have those on yesterday, but if you turn on the moving averages, you see that it was a test on the 200 period. Right? We've traded back up now. If we come back down below, any test might be on this 200 period again, which would again give us a fake breakdown of the bull channel. If that 200 period held, we could see price pop back up. Right? And our daily low contain, our daily range low contain continues to move up as this channel support moves up. The more we trade above this 200 period and consolidate kind of in this area, we're going to see this 200 period continue to rise because it starts to get affected by these candles here that are trading higher. Right? So we're looking for price to come down and test this, potentially test this 200 period again. We do have an order block that sits down here in the 250 to 252-ish range, right? And so also we've already set it. We've tested it once. If we came back down, if we broke the channel, would this continue to hold as an area of support? Again, we've talked about that 250 level being important on the daily and I believe the 4-hour chart as well. Also in this 15-minute chart, we have a fair value gap down here. So we're going to be watching those things. We do have a very bearish look right here on the RSI indicator. We are pointed down. We are at the 50. We are below the moving average, the 14-period moving average control line. Right, so that is a bearish look on the 15-minute chart, as well as that moving averages giving us a bearish look. So if we gap up, do we gap above the moving averages? Possible. If we gap down, are we looking for a sell down to support? Absolutely. And so be watching for that first 15-minute price range to develop as Tesla opens tomorrow. Okay, dropping down into the lower time frames for you day traders and scalpers. Okay, we saw that gap down. We saw price start to trade down. Actually, this is Tuesday. Sorry, that was on Monday. We saw the gap down. We saw immediate buying pressure kick in. And if you look at the moving averages, so this is important, I often teach the smart money concepts and how to use, those concepts when you're trading, but also important to still sometimes look at your traditional indicators. Right? And so by using smart money concepts with moving averages, you can see that when we traded down, we traded right down below or opened up below the 50 period, ultimately kind of running a test on the 20 or on the 200 period. We ripped right through it, back up the 20 period, set a 5-minute fair value gap, next candle, blow out, set another fair value gap, and from there we just ran. You can see also, even though it's been closed, there is a fair value gap right here as well. That was respected with this trade. Now, we did take a trade in the live room where we called out and I got my first entry in this candle, my second entry in this candle. There was a 15-minute fair value gap here. I was looking for a much bigger reaction. I was looking for a price to bring us back down into the 262 to 260.95. The contracts we took were 260 puts, right? We got very good entry in these candles, and you'll see as we drop into the 1 minute, we just didn't get the reaction that we were looking for. Okay, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. I ended up taking the loss. It was very minimal. I was able to make most of the loss up with a later scalp on SPY, but it just didn't play out quite like we were watching. 5-minute chart, we came back down. We tested that median level. We tested the 20 period, and we ripped up from there and just started shredding. As we had just phenomenal move from 258 all the way up to 268. So basically like a $10 run, all in the first session of trading. From there, we saw a nice top, we saw some wicks, we saw some minor rejection coming in here, right, as we started to push up towards that resistance line, and then we ultimately just sold off. We got these equal lows, right, but those got taken here. We saw that kind of massive push down. Took these equal lows, ripped back up. Again, testing the 50 period here, testing VWAP, and we're trading below. Right, we have another bearish look on the short-term time frame, 5-minute time frame. But we ran out of time, so do we end up continuing that tomorrow? Right, we have this Tuesday manipulation move because we've been heading up. Right? Was this move manipulation where we're going to start seeing distribution to the downside, closing below the low of Monday, which would be down in the 252 range? That's totally possible, but again, it would be breaking the bullish channel that we currently have. It would be taking out the daily range low contain, and if we did that, it would be ultra bearish down to the 252 range. And so we'll be watching that, if distribution happens. We also could see on Wednesday, like I talked about, further continuation to set a new high, and that new high would be looking at buy-side liquidity. We have this 5-minute order block, right, which is right in line with our daily range contain and our bullish support line. But we would be taking out that bearish resistance that is looming overhead that we could not clear today. So we'll be seeing if that happens as well. And then just dropping down in the final 1-minute chart. All right, looking at today's price again, opened low, down near, not quite running a test on VWAP, but coming down below the 200 period. A little bit of a fake out manipulation move there because it dropped below the 200 period right out of the gate. Although RSI was clearly oversold, that doesn't mean that we don't just come up, fill the gap, and then drop down lower to run a test on support. We did not enter the trades here early on. Again, the trades that we entered were right here at this top, which was an oversold reading. There was a 15-minute fair value gap, and this hit it by, I think, the precise wick. Entered a second contract here, right? Was looking for the move back down into the low 260s. Didn't quite get there. Moving averages held up. Right? We got a false breakdown of the 50 period back on VWAP. Never got the test of the 200 period. So I was looking again to return maybe into this fair value gap, or even just targeting this low here of 262.56. Would have been a much better scalp, short-term day trade if we would have hit it. This was in a silver bullet time frame macro, and that's why we took the trade we did. But ultimately, the bias was daily bullish because we were trading up heading into the macro time frame. But again, I was looking for that manipulation move to happen. On a Tuesday, we had set a new high here. But we ended up trading even higher. So it is what it is. Again, if you use your stop losses, you shouldn't be losing on trades because this trade did go into profit, right? And if you set your stop loss back here at the high where we took that second entry, and that's where I exited, it would have been a very minimal risk. I did take, again, a small loss, but not very much because I had an average of price here and price here. So my loss, I ended up cutting in this candle. And because it ended up being a breakout candle, I didn't get a perfect exit, so I took a small loss. But nonetheless, I did not ride that contract into the dirt. Now, if you ended up holding on to it for some reason and you didn't get your exit here, it ended up going back into profit as we consolidated down here. So congratulations for holding out. I actually thought we were going to break that resistance line and head up to test that channel support or channel resistance of the bull channel. We didn't get there. And so again, this does look like a manipulation move. It also looks a lot like Wyckoff distribution, where you have these moves up, consolidation, you have a move down, you got a bearish change of character that happens, you got a break of structure right here, okay, and then we came down and now we got more consolidation. Was this ultimately another little move of manipulation after we have accumulation, manipulation? We've started the distribution. Are we going to continue down to the downside? And then we know what our targets are if we're heading down there, right? Channel support, daily range low contain as that moves up throughout the day, right? Order block below, sell side liquidity, and then we have the previous day low, which I will adjust here on my chart. This previous day low is from Monday. Now we're on Tuesday, so I will also label off the previous day low from today, which would be right here at 257.65. And that's going to be previous day low. Okay, so a lot of targets, a lot of confluence down in this area, right, with that range low contain, previous day low, and this trend line of support. Okay, as far as our moving averages go on this time frame, we don't have a lot going on. We're below all moving averages. We have a very bearish look where it's a perfect bearish on the short-term setup, but that can change very quickly because we ran out of time. So if price were to gap up, we'd gap above those moving averages. Or if it was to gap down, you'd see an aggressive move by the 20 period as that 200 period kind of continued to trickle down. So if we were to head lower, trade down, back up to test, trade down to support, totally possible. It would balance out some of this unbalanced price range as well. And then we also had, again here, we had a very large change of character. And so if you were to mark that off and you saw there's a fair value gap, you'd also say there's an unbalanced price range down here in the mid 261s. And so at least we'd be looking to balance that price range, if not trade lower to some of our other targets. So I hope this analysis has offered you guys some support. Hope you guys are trading, following along with the trading view as far as the chart setups go. It really helps. I know it really helped me when I was a beginning trader and a beginning chart analyzer. That I followed people that seem to understand how to set up charts, how to read charts, how to analyze. And so I hope that by me, adding these levels live, giving you guys these targets, sharing my indicators with you, helps you guys become better analysts, regardless of how you take the trades and what positions you enter. Because understanding what's going on in the chart, understanding market structure, understanding where fair value gaps are because of inefficient price delivery, right? Understanding why these moving averages do what they do and what they represent, all very important when you're reading a chart, because I can share with you guys a million charts, and if you don't know what that chart says and what I'm trying to imply, and I don't give you that message, then you're just lost in the dark, right? And so hopefully a lot of this content that I bring you, as well as the tutorials I have on the channel, are helping you guys better understand the ins and outs of trading, chart analysis, and technical analysis. So don't forget to smash a like, subscribe, check out the merch shop, support the channel, and I appreciate you guys listening. I'll see you guys on the next one.